It's bad. Anime.
Hey everybody, I'm John.
And I'm Rob.
And this is Bad Anime, the show where we decide, is
this anime bad?
And today, we got a very fun one to talk about. So this is a special of our Does It Hold Up kind of series.
Right.
Where we take an older anime, not necessarily too old, but an anime that's been around and widely regarded for a little while.
And that's the biggest thing, one that has general critical acclaim.
Yeah, and decided to, tackle it and see, does it hold up? Does it hold up against these claims, I guess?
Yes, and our the first one of this series was Evangelion, which should be out by now, and that one, I'd say listen to it if you have 3 hours. If you have 3 hours.
It is 3 hours. So.
If you want to tackle the entire reflection. So.
Yeah. It's definitely long. This one though, is on Gurren Lagann.
Yes, which actually has another this is another production from Studio Gainax. There was some direct involvement from people who were involved in Evangelion. So
yes.
This one, and it's funny, this is one of the shows that's been getting on and off recommended to me for years.
Mm-hmm.
And I just never sat down to watch it until we decided to do it. I watched it 2 months ago. And I have a lot of questions.
Yeah.
For Bouncy, for you. Because you've been offhandedly recommending the show every once in a while.
Yeah.
Well, as I was coming in and out of my weeb phases.
Right.
Especially being during that big 4-year weeb drought I always talk about. You remember you kept mentioning casually, it's like, oh, you should check out Gurren Lagann. How did you come across this show?
Well,
and do you remember when you watched it, how you found it?
Yes.
What led you to it? I'm just curious.
I came across this show about 5 years ago, approximately. I was in my last year of college, right?
Okay.
Was coming up on the end, and I was, at this point in my life, I of course, at that point, I was a big, Dragon Ball Z guy. I just historically watched a lot of Dragon Ball Z, Naruto, kind of stuff like that.
Yeah, the big ones.
And then I was like, okay, I kind of want to watch, another anime. And at that point, I was watching, one anime a year, probably.
Right.
Or just very, very infrequently.
Gotcha.
And so I think it was our friend Sean that actually suggested, hey, you should try to watch this one. It's called Gurren Lagann. I think you'd really like it. And I watched it around that time because I was just looking for something cool and different. And I watched through it and I was like, oh, wow. I really liked it.
Yeah.
I really loved it at the time. And it was only 26 episodes. So it was really short in comparison to everything else I've ever watched up to that point. So I was like, wow, it's so short. And there's even a few recap episodes in here.
Yeah.
And it's great. It's easy. And I freaking loved it at the time. And it was probably one of my favorite animes for a long period of time, at least.
Right. And that's actually something I want to talk about.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people cite this as their favorite anime.
Yes.
And then I think the most popular score on Mal is 10 out of 10. So people freaking adore this show.
Wow. That surprises me, actually, that the score is so widely regarded. They did take some liberties. They did take some risks. I mean, there is a rap song in there pretty much.
Fine. Yeah.
Which is fine. It's just different, I guess.
It's critically speaking, I mean, this show, so like I said, I came across it. We decided we want to talk about the show, and you kept recommending it to me. So I'm like, all right, I'll give it a watch.
Yeah.
And am I surprised? Is it that a lot of people love this show? No, because people's favorite anime are often very personal and very specific.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, for a decade, mine was 29 minutes long with a bunch of chess imagery and superheroes.
So much chess imagery.
I still love Hikaru Ono. I own the soundtrack on vinyl, I think I mentioned, and I love it. I listen to it every once in a while. It cost me a fair chunk of change, but it was a record that's been out of print since 1987, so I'm not going to complain about the price.
Yeah.
So like I said, the fact that a lot of people love this show, I'm not too surprised. When I saw the amount of 10 out of 10s, I kind of wanted to say, hold on, sailors. Let's pause for a moment. Because I'm coming to this very interesting situation as almost like a total outsider. A lot of the reviews that I've seen, it's a lot of nostalgia in there. This came out in 2008 or 7, somewhere around there. Late 2000s, so a lot of people my age would have been 14, 15 when they saw it the first time.
Yeah.
And that's what I see people saying, oh, I saw it around X time.
Yep.
And
which I would argue is probably the perfect time to watch this specific anime.
Here's the thing. I'm very curious of how I would feel about this show if I watched it when I was 15.
Yeah.
One of the praises this show gets a lot is for its originality. And hate to say it. I mean, not because I'm one of the guys. Originality is never a big deal for me.
Mm-hmm.
If you take a premise or like a concept I'm familiar with and expand upon it, I'm all for it. I don't want to. I have to burst people's bubble here. This is not very original. But it's funny. It's not. I wouldn't call it super derivative. In a sense, because it doesn't take a lot of influence from other anime. It takes a lot of influence from live action stuff of all things. There is we'll get into it more, especially in the first half of the show. When I turned it on for the first time, I'm like, oh, that's what this is? I was surprised. I'm like, really? I didn't know I was watching Power Rangers. Because, and we'll get into it more in a couple seconds, but a lot of these characters were super out of Power Rangers. The first half of the show really felt like a season of Super Sentai. And I adored Super Sentai, and I still do. But I got into it very hard at the age of around 15.
Yeah, around the time that a lot of people got into this.
Exactly.
Weirdly enough.
Yeah, no, the coincidences are absurd here. And so, as I was watching this, I really said to myself, boy, I really wish I watched this 12 years ago, because I don't know how I would have felt. I would have felt about it. I just don't know. So with that being said, we should probably talk about a little bit what the show's actually about.
Yeah, let's talk about that. First, I just wanted to mention something very slightly, is that before we started recording, we actually had a little field trip to go to the grocery store and buy a plunger.
Oh, yes, because we learned the hard way you don't own a plunger.
I don't own a plunger, and Rob's over right now, and he just took a massive shit in my toilet.
Yeah.
And boy, was it not flushing. And we were like, oh, I guess we got to go get a plunger, because I just don't own a plunger, I guess.
And it's funny because my first reaction is like, because I'm a man who occasionally takes gigantic shits. When I get a little backed up, it all comes out eventually.
Understandable.
So I just looked. I'm like, oh, that's fucking mammoth. Elsie, where's your plunger? I didn't even flush it. I just knew it was gonna clog. And you're like, oh, I don't think I have one. And I'm just like, we're gonna need to get one.
It's because I used to have one, but I never used it. So I was just like, I guess I don't need this anymore. So when I moved, I didn't really think twice about it, I guess. But now, but we got one.
Yeah, so we got one, and
beer.
Yeah, we got some beers too while we were out. I'm like, I just lost 2 pounds on the shitter. I can use a beer.
It was a great. It was a great checkout.
Yeah, that was just so funny. When I'm walking out with just a 6-pack of Presidente and a plunger over my shoulder,
and a plunger. And Presidente is, of course, a beer that I'm very attached to.
But
yeah.
As it was just so funny to me because I'm very used to clogging toilets, and so I cleaned I got the whole thing done in like 2 seconds. I sat down and bounced. You're like, oh, you're gonna unclog it? I'm like, it's done.
I hear about 2 strokes, 2 splashes.
Yeah.
And then he was like, yeah, I think I'm good. And I was like, what? And you were like, yeah, I plunge things all the time. I'm like, wow, what a man. My God.
Yeah, it's all
takes care of business around the house.
It's all
feeds the children.
It's all about technique.
Comes home and kisses me from work. God damn. What a man.
Is that why I woke up? Anyway. Like I said, I slept. I did sleep over last night.
Yeah, he did.
And I did wake up with a very bad leg cramp, so I'm wondering how I got that. Man.
Yeah, so Gurren Lagann. We'll talk about the plot.
Simone. What's the
name? Simone. Okay, that's one of my big things about this show. It's everything's pronunciation is a little off. Universally, because you have the Japanese sub that of course is like Shimon or Simon.
Yeah.
And then you have the New York dub that is Simon.
Yeah.
But it's supposed to be really Simon.
I think so.
I don't really know what to refer to him as.
Let's just go with Simone.
I'll go with Simone because it just matches everything.
Yeah, because from what I understand, there's actually multiple dubs of this.
Yeah.
And I don't know which was the version I watched. I watched the dub.
I also watched the dub back when I watched the show, and the thing was that I really needed to, before this episode, I really needed to go back and refresh myself a little bit on the show, because I do remember a lot of it. I remember really liking it and really enjoying it, and it was probably my favorite anime at the time that I watched it. I mentioned before,
right.
So I was like, all right, I got to remember exactly kind of what the beats were, I guess, of the story, and how it went. Because I remember the general, here's the first arc, here's the second arc, whatever, how it ended.
Yeah.
But I didn't really remember a lot of the details, especially a lot of the character names.
I still don't know the character names.
Yeah, and they were really hard to remember because other than Simon, Yoko, and Kamina'd, Rasyu, and Ron, because I thought Ron was a really funny character. But other than those people, Ron is the one that is he's like. They don't say anything about his sexuality outright.
Oh,
but he's
yeah, that one. Yeah.
But he's just got something going on, you know?
The one who probably didn't age the best.
Yeah, he did not age well over the course of the past few years, which is okay. I mean, he had a lot of comic relief, I think.
Yes.
But I had to refamiliarize myself with a lot of characters and a lot of like the story beats.
Yeah.
And going back to it, I mean, the plot of the show is it really takes a turn halfway through, but it's twofold, right?
Yeah. It's really two shows kind of stitched together.
Yeah.
And the first half is Simone, Kamina'd, they're the kids and like these because apparently he's all powerful, like not really being, but like this one ruler of Earth has basically suppressed society and put everybody underground.
Yes, Lord Genome.
Yeah, Lord Genome, who is a character we'll talk about later, I guess.
Yeah,
whatever. And so
the absolute apathy when talking about Lord Genome. Lord Genome is actually one of the people that I really wanted to dive into with you.
Sure, we'll do it.
But continue anyways.
No, exactly, we'll do that. But Genome forces everyone underground. Kamina'd and Simone are trying to get out. Kamina'd's our big boisterous anime protagonist that was really popular in the mid 2000s. He's kind of just a loud blaring idiot.
Yeah.
And he's the one who started driving me fucking insane. So I was very happy a few episodes in. Anyway, so him and Simone find a mech.
Yes.
A cute little mech head with feet.
Yep.
And I believe that's Gurren, right?
Lagann.
Oh, Lagann's the one. Yeah. And so Gurren is the other half.
Yes.
Okay, cool. I forgot.
It is okay.
Thank you for helping me. So they find it. They get out. And so now they have a quest. There was something involving Kamina'd's father in the very beginning, but then he finds him dead. And then he just blinks like, all right, time for an adventure. It's like, okay, I guess we're not going to revisit your dead father anytime soon.
Yeah.
No?
Yeah.
Right, word. So
well, yes. So, humanity has been forced underground.
Yeah, it is. And Kamina'd's father was an explorer, and then he inspired him to get out of there. Simone's kind of along for the ride. He wants to see this. I think his parents died.
He wants to see the world, I guess. Mainly, I feel like Simone really gets out of there because Kamina'd wants to get out of there.
Right.
It's kind of like we got to pierce the surface. You got to pierce the heavens with your drill, Simone. And Simone is, of course, like his job in the little society is to dig. Is to dig holes and drill and find new land for humanity underground and whatnot. They get out and they meet Yoko in the first episode too.
Yeah, they meet Yoko, who is our piece. She's also a character, which is very funny. Not exactly aging very well because for a lot of it, she's just a prop for fan service. Because they uncomfortably cut to her crotch and tits so much in this show.
A lot.
And
I didn't realize that until I went back to it again. And I was watching it like maybe a few weeks ago. And I was like, wow, they really hammed it up with that. But like not in like a ha-ha way. In like a ooh,
very much in a very serious get horny.
This is the hot person
that
horny. You have to look at because she has bazongers.
Yeah,
Here you go. And she's got big guns, big boobies, and a big personality. But not really.
Exactly. It's she's basically burn up light.
Yeah, pretty much.
Anyway,
pretty much.
And I love girls with gun shows. They're usually a lot of fun, very ham-fisted. But she was just too straight-laced, and there was not enough comedy.
She didn't really have much of a character, which I guess we could dive into the characters in a little bit. But just to finish up on plot, right? Yeah. So they are fighting these things called beastmen.
Yep.
Who are trying to suppress them and keep them on the ground and kill people that come up to the surface, whatever. Meet a team of people. They become Team Gurren. Yeah. They go through a lot of weird name changes for which I don't understand. For most of the show, it's just like, all right,
a lot of them make sense in Japanese.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah, because at first they were Team Gurren, and then they became Team Gurren, which means basically means Great Gurren.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes, yeah. So that translates well into Japanese. So once I heard that, I'm like, okay, I know what you're going for.
Very good.
Yeah.
So they have all these other characters, which we will also get to in a little bit. But all these other characters kind of come into the scene, and they're all together, and they're a team, and they kind of like go through destroying beastmen and going on adventures.
Yeah. And the first big plot moment happens when they try to capture this giant ship.
Yes.
And then during the process of which, but actually right before it, they let's just foreshadowing is a great storytelling device,
ain't it?
Yes. And if anyone was surprised by Kamina'd's death, I ask you, what show were you watching? It was like leading a plane to a runway telegraphing Kamina'd's about to die.
So, see, I feel that this is the stark difference that we're talking about. As somebody who is experienced in the anime field, having an opinion on the show, and somebody kind of who has seen a lot of anime in their day, and especially a lot of Power Rangers and a lot of Kamen Rider and whatnot, knowing exactly what was going to... Me, very new to the genre when I watched the show, had no idea that's where they were going.
Oh, here's the thing, right? Okay, the whole scene with Yoko beforehand, when he gave her... No, there was a couple scenes where I'm just like, okay, thank you. It was just, I felt like they were holding my hand through this. Where they, first it's like, someone was talking to Kami, it's like, you're so reckless, you're gonna die. Next scene, he kisses Yoko, and it's like, I'm gonna repay that kiss tenfold. I'm like, he's so gonna die.
Well, that's the thing. Like, before this, I grew up on Naruto and Goku. Two very dumb protagonists. Idiots who just keep fighting and eventually win. So when I see them and then I see Kamina, I'm like, oh, makes sense. He's going to keep fighting. Everybody's going to be like, you're reckless. Like, you have no idea what you're doing and you're fucking dumb. And your hair is stupid and blue. But he then dies. He fucking dies. And at that point, I was like, wow, it kind of matched to me a very similar, because at the time, matched to me like a death of a Ned Stark, I guess, in the first season of Game of Thrones.
That's a very you're giving the show a lot of credit.
Well, I mean, I loved it, so I got to give it the credit that it deserves for me.
I got you.
Because, he was the main character. He's the person that I had my faith in, right? He's the person that I was like, all right, he's going to take us to the next arc. He's going to get us through the show, and then he died.
This is actually funny because this is where my Power Rangers fandom helps me out because this is a plot device. I don't think they did this intentionally, but it was such a coincidence. Like I said, there was a lot of scenes before this that are very Power Ranger inspired. All of for example, all of Kamina's catchphrases and the poses when the drill pierces the heavens.
Yeah, right.
That's very Sentai. There's actually one in particular. It's actually funny enough because we're talking about Team Daigoden. Actually, the Sentai this reminded me a lot of was Gosei Sentai Dai Ranger. So Dai Ranger.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah. And the whole thing was about them being the 5 stars in the heavens. And so they had a lot of similar poses, a lot of the similar...
Nobody can see what you did there, but you just did like an arm motion, motioning up towards the heavens.
Well, yeah, because
so everybody's
because
awareness.
The motion they did was like the Rangers did the five fingers up, meaning the 5 stars shining in the heavens. Where in Gurren Lagann it's a similar pose, but it's the one finger pointing up to the heavens.
Yes.
So there's a lot of similar terminology there.
Interesting.
Especially like when the show the full name of the show was it Tengen Toppa Gurren Lagann? Something like it's a lot of imagery based around the stars in the heavens. So a lot of I am willing to go that stay as a coincidence. Funny enough, because the mech itself, the Gurren Lagann, is also it reminded me a lot of the Ryu Soldier from Dai Ranger, the Red Ranger's mech. Sure. It was red. Even though I think the same guy who wrote Gurren Lagann also worked a lot on the Getter Robo franchise, who was like, it's another Go Nagai production. It's a Go Nagai / someone else giant robot production. So I feel like, anyway, but the reason I bring up the Power Ranger similarities a lot, I just want to paint the pictures of a lot of them. Well, another common, I can think of at least 2 times where this happened, and there's probably more because Sentai is just so long and expanding. When a Ranger dies, passes their ability onto their younger brother and said, "I believed in you the whole time." And then the younger brother just takes up the role of the person. So like, oh, Simone's gonna become Kamina. And boy, did I win the fucking pony on that.
Yeah, one. I mean, he with the glasses, with the cape, with literally with even the hair,
with everything.
Like, dude just became not his older brother technically, but his older brother.
Exactly.
That he called bro, Aniki.
Aniki. Yeah. Exactly. So and honestly, how I said it to myself once after the Yoko scene, like I Kamina kiss Yoko because Simone saw it and got really, really upset. I'm like, oh, Simone's gonna get distracted trying to fucking combine with the ship. Then Kamina's going to run up and hit him, and then Kamina's going to die. And then she's going to say something to the effect of, it's all up to you now. I said this to myself, and then I watched the episode. It was just so telegraphed. And again, that's just coming, like, not even from the anime perspective, the more Power Ranger side of things. I'm like, I know what you're going for here.
Sure.
Because even the smaller scenes when, like, Kamina and Simone can't combine the mechs, like, they're having trouble with it. I'm like, that's an episode of Jetman. I'm pretty sure that came right out of Jetman. One of my favorite Sentais. Like, I've seen this before. And that's why the entire first half, I'm laughing, especially when we got to Lord Genome and we saw his generals. I'm like, this is just, this is the evil fucking fortress from Go-Go 5. I mean, my God. I was delighted. I'm like, because part of the reason everyone...
Yeah, I don't know. Did you like that? Because, I mean, it seems like I mean, as you mentioned, originality is very hard to achieve, and you don't. It's not really a big deal.
It's not a big.
But
It's not.
did you see it more as like an homage to this thing that you really love, or did you see it as like, oh, they're just being lazy and copying this thing?
I would definitely lean towards homage.
Okay,
you
good.
know, I'm not going to dig on the show for that. I think and even I'll give him like a benefit of doubt. If it were some coincidences, it's a lot of fucking coincidences.
Yeah. Oh, it's a lot.
It is a lot, and there's even more. But yeah. So it was funny. Like I didn't know how to feel for it because I was just laughing because like everyone loves this show, and a lot of the same people who love the show are not the type of people to enjoy Power Rangers. And I'm like.
Right.
You guys just didn't watch a lot of Power Rangers or Sentai.
Yeah,
I mean,
I'm in that camp for sure. I didn't watch a lot of Power Rangers.
Yeah, no, you totally are, and it's just funny because you love this, and I'm just like this is so.
Well, we'll get to like whether I love it now.
Oh, now, yeah. Well, no, at the time you did.
Because I loved it then. And
yes,
I think one of my to this day probably one of my favorite parts of the series is that a lot of people take some annoyance with Kamina'd as a character, but I personally loved Kamina'd, not necessarily for all of his like qualities of like leadership and all that stuff, but I did love the speeches that he would give to Simon or Shimon because I just thought they were so funny because it was just like such a great, to me, like a parody of like an inspirational speaker. Because it was like Kamina'd saying like, even when he was dying, like, don't believe in yourself, believe in the me that believes in you. And I was like, that's so stupid. Yeah, and it's so funny. And that's what I love about this show is they took that one phrase or kind of took that embodiment of Kamina'd, who dies in like episode 8.
Yes.
And throughout the rest of the show, you would not think that he is not the main character of this series still. He has just maintained all of that, and everything they do is for Kamina'd, and everything they achieve is for Kamina'd. The fucking city that they built in the second arc is called Kamina'd City, like, But it's just really funny to me how this, like, at the time, possibly like 16 to 18-year-old idiot has inspired a whole generation of humanity.
Exactly.
And I approach it more as like that's hilarious.
Yeah.
And this is funny, and he's clearly got some moxie to him because he made up this
so
whole
I
show.
completely understand where you're coming from now if you're coming at it from more of an ironic perspective.
Right. It's more irony. It's not necessarily like, oh my God. At least for me, it's not, oh my God, he's so smart and cool. And it was just like, this guy's dumb and I love it.
Yeah. He drove me fucking insane. He annoyed me so much. And
I get it. And I totally get it. I mean,
every time he was on screen, I was like, "Oh my God." And then once episode 6 and 7 passed, I'm like, "Oh, they're about to kill him."
Yeah.
I got so excited. I remember texting you like, "Yay, Kamina'd's dead."
I remember you texted me, you were like, "So, can't wait till they kill Kamina'd in a few episodes." And I was like, "What?" How did you know that?
Oh God.
But yeah, so I mean, moving forward with just the plot, then we can get a deeper dive into the characters themselves.
Yeah, and then there was a bunch of other characters you met along the way who turned out to be very important. But the thing is, there's like,
what were they? It's like
the only one I could think of who was very important was Rashu.
Yeah, and viral, I guess.
The Beastman guy?
Beastman guy, yeah. He turned out to be...
He was one of the few characters who I thought, okay, he's a good
There were a lot of characters that I feel like they kind of like dipped their toes in the water with, but didn't necessarily do a deep dive with.
Honestly, and this is one of the things... This is one of the main themes I'm going to keep bringing up. Yeah. This show should have been longer.
Interesting.
Yes.
Yeah. Wow.
Very much so.
That's a fun take, actually. I really like that take.
No, it's true because, like you said, there's so many characters here. And they're honestly just too many characters for the length of the show.
Right.
26 episodes is not a very long time, especially when it's because it's really two 13-episode series.
Yeah, really.
Because you get the first half, and where they meet with Lord Genome, and they have the climactic battle, and it's like, oh, I wasn't the enemy, but now I'm dead.
Yeah, it's a classic. I wasn't the enemy. It's been Verm the whole time kind of thing.
And given that several people who worked on this did go
to Darling and the
Franxx, that makes a lot of sense.
It is kind of that.
I will say, watching Gurren Lagann made me understand what Darling and the Franxx was trying to do. Because Darling and the Franxx was very much trying to have the end of Gurren Lagann.
Right. And it was very similar to that. And of course, like second half of the series, right, Lord Genome dies, and he was the thing that kept the population from growing, because once the population meets 1 million people on the surface, or something like that.
Yep.
6 million or 1 million.
It's 1
million. Once it reaches 1 million, the anti-spiral, which are a group of entities, kind of like, I guess, gods.
Yes.
They very much visualize them as gods.
Right.
But this group of people that have tried to keep people of humanity down, or the power of the spiral down, which every human has some access to.
We learn about the spiral
and
power.
Boy, do we not forget it throughout the show.
This show does not let you for a moment forget about spiral power.
And these
I was saying spiral power in my fucking sleep for a month.
Spiral power. But these anti-spirals come down, and they use kind of a Nia, who is a daughter of Lord Genome, which is another thing that we'll talk about.
I have to bring this up now. I'm going to stop you.
Okay, we'll bring it up now.
When we introduced fucking Polly Pocket waifu, I lost my mind. Fucking in a box. I started...
In a box, too?
I started...
Like she was a fucking toy.
Yeah, she's Polly Pocket waifu. And she was the crazy overdone makeup and hair. I lost my mind.
Her irises are flowers.
Yes.
What the fuck? That was so silly.
I paused and I started laughing hysterically.
Oh my God.
When Simone picked her up in the box, I'm like, this is the stupidest.
Okay, but Lord Genome,
right.
If we're gonna dive into that, we'll dive into it, because there was a thing about Lord Genome that was like kind of talked about, but not really, in that he has thousands of children.
Yes.
Because he just has this setup called Beauty Village.
Yeah.
With just a bunch of hot chicks that please him sexually.
Yes.
On a regular basis.
And it's implied those are his kids.
It's fucking wild. Because when you think about Lord Genome as a person who's trying to save humanity, it doesn't necessarily include that.
And that's why later in the series, when they try to like give him like a kind of a redemption-esque arc, because he becomes Futurama, his head's in a tube.
Yeah, he becomes Rasu converts him into a biocomputer. Technically,
yes, and so they're using him. And he starts apologizing to Polly Pocket waifu.
He's like, I'm sorry. Daughter number 15,402. I apologize. I didn't mean to have sex with you and all your siblings and create more of your siblings. Sorry. My bad. I'm a head in a jar.
And here's the thing. So when the show tried to like give him that redemption arc, I'm like, fuck you.
Yo, that's like me. Okay, very niche, but that's like me at the end of Gossip Girl when they were like, Chuck Bass is actually a good guy, everybody. And I was like, no, he sexually assaulted a minor in the first episode 6 seasons ago. You can't make me remember. You can't make me forget that.
Exactly. It's very similar to...
it's very like... And this one was like of just a few years later. Yeah. They're like, let's boot up this guy. What made him so bad again? I don't remember.
Yeah, exactly. So Genome, I thought that got me when they tried to give him the redemption.
Well, Genome worked with Kamina'd's dad in like that first anti-spiral war, and they all, of course, died except for Lord Genome, who went back to Earth and was like, "All right, bro, I can't let that shit happen again. So now I'm gonna have to, first of all, put all humans underground, and second of all, have sex with a bunch of minors." Exactly. And everyone was like, wait, what? What was the second one? He's like, never mind.
And the show really tries to make you forget about that fact.
Like, what was that other part?
Especially when you get to the second half. I mean,
like, excuse me?
And we should talk also, because there's a fun parallel between, and they make it very plain as day, which I kind of wish that they would. I wish a little subtlety was involved here with Rashu, because Rashu came from a village, right? Mm-hmm. It's a very similar concept where, like, once the population got to 50 people, they'd boot him from the village.
Right.
So Rashu came from that and realized we're sending people to die. So like he was all like that's his reason for like going to the surface to basically find more space for people,
right,
and to make sure people keep living. And Rashu, coincidentally, he learns from Lord Genome that of the whole 1 million cap thing.
Yeah.
So then we have this little time skip where the show goes from, and again, this I will again this one even more so than Power Rangers. I was so happy when I saw this. Like, and I didn't know how to feel at first, because the second half of the show, you're like, oh, it gets so good, and it got interesting. It also just became Gundam. Like a lot of
which is yet another series that I'm not familiar with.
Exactly.
Which makes a lot of sense here.
It's just so funny because the second half of the show, like we mentioned, there's new communist city. All the characters have aged up and they're all in positions of power. There is a little bit of comedy with them going, we were children. Why do we have all this power?
Yeah.
And so, there's interesting parallels here with Gundam, with the whole geopolitical system where like they find these colonies outside New Communist City, and they're becoming a suppressive. Now they were the liberators, and now there's the suppressors.
Right.
That is straight out of Zeta Gundam. The second.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's
because that's yet another plot point in the show that they really didn't flesh out enough.
Exactly.
But it was just like a quick it was just a scene with Viral, and he was out there. like all these people that wanted to go back to living underground
Mm-hmm.
because like the new city was oppressive and that kind of society was oppressive.
Yeah.
But then you kind of flash back and everybody in like the main like council with like Simone, Rossiu, and like all those other characters, they're all just like, yeah, bro, that sucks. So cool.
Exactly.
So giant robots, communist city, awesome.
And the thing is, again, the one point I meant to get to with Rossiu, and they kind of hit you over the head with it because it was plain as day. He's becoming everything he hated.
Yes,
it's clear as day because he's trying to cap the population at 1 million, much like the headmaster of his village.
Yep.
You didn't need Simone to bark that at him. He was like, you just became like this person.
Yeah.
I hated that dialogue exchange because like we know.
Yeah.
It's plain as day.
Right.
Stop treating me like an idiot. But then again, is this show made for younger teenagers?
That's a very good argument. I mean, it could be. And the thing with Rossio too was that he was always so close to becoming he was kind of a dick, but he was so close to becoming like an absolute kind of traitor, revengist kind of person.
And he would have been so cool if
he never did, which was like kind of what I was, I like he got some heat from me. Like when my first watch, I was like, I fucking hate this guy. I was like, this guy sucks. Like I had such a visceral reaction. I feel like Rossiu in that show was the only, like the enemies, whatever. I don't care. Like the Beast People, I was like, whatever. Fighting by Beastmen. Rossiu, I was like, get this little piece of garbage out of my sight. I was like, I had such a visceral reaction to him.
I'm kind of glad you did that.
When I had
cool.
the first watch. It really worked me into a shoot, brother. Because I was like, I was watching and I was like, man, I hate this guy so much. And if he completely turned heel, if he completely did that, it would have made a lot of sense. And that kind of
it would have been a little
that kind of goes with your criticism of it should have been longer, because there was a lot of things here that could have happened that kind of were just capped and left unsaid a little bit.
And especially for Rashi, I'll get into it right now because there is the scene where he brings a gun with him and he goes back to the village with every intent of blowing his brains out.
Right.
Because he realized, oh my God, I almost look what I almost did. So he's about to go blow his brains out. But the thing is, I'm watching this and I was sitting back just going, this show doesn't have the balls. He's not going to shoot himself.
Yeah.
Fucking Simone's going to charge him and punch him just like Kamina'd did with him.
Yep.
And guess again who won
happened.
I mean,
yeah.
I was just laughing because I'm like, oh, and also I love the very subliminal message here where if you have mental health issues, it's okay. Just punch the person and then they'll be fine. So not exactly a glowing recommendation of mental health, but then again, people from Evangelion did work on this. So not a lot of people knowing a lot about mental health.
It is the show is significantly more Shonen Jump than it is Evangelion.
Which I only bring up because a lot of people when I watched Eva said go watch Gurren Lagann.
Mm.
And if you're one of those people, please stop it. Just don't do that. These shows have virtually nothing in common. There's only one or two moments from a directorial standpoint and a cinematography aspect where I saw some Anno. Like I saw something that's what Anno would have done.
Yeah.
Episode 8. At the very end, when it's like this, it's the scene like they're burying Kamina'd. They buried him, and it shows a couple still images, and all you hear is the rain falling.
Yeah,
and it's like Simone crying his eyes out. Everyone just standing there in the darkness and the rain. I'm like, okay, that's something that Anno could feasibly have done.
Right.
There's one or two scenes with Polly Pocket Waifu and someone else. They're sitting in a room with the two glowy cubes in a dark room. I'm like, okay, yeah, that's straight out of Anno's playbook.
And those
are the only similarities.
There is also a kind of
okay, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, keep going.
I guess you could say how the mechs work because both mechs, the Gurren Lagann and the Eva units, both of their they both had some degree of a sync rate where their operation depended
emotions.
It depended on the emotional stability of the pilot.
Right.
So very trace elements similar with Eva. So if you're recommending this after Eva, don't, because they do not have enough similarities.
And I do want to save this full conversation for another episode because I think it is very cool how in depth like both of these series get, but just in kind of different ways. And like you kind of have that same thing with last thing I'll mention on the comparisons here, but you have like Shinji and Simone, two characters that do go through depression in the show,
right?
At some point, Simone's is a little kind of like truncated, if we could say that much,
totally.
With Kamina'd's death and whatever. But the stark difference here, I mean, is that Shinji doesn't want to pilot an Eva. Simone does.
Yeah, exactly.
And eventually, he gets to the point that he really does.
Yeah.
But that's the big dichotomy there. Either way, we can move on from Eva comparisons. I definitely want to do another offshoot about that.
Oh, totally.
But to kind of finish up the plot here, right?
Yep.
So you have Simone and everybody, they're in Kamina'd City, this new society. Anti-Spiral comes down. Anti-Spiral's like, we got to wipe you out.
And there's again, one of the Gundam similarities here where they get one of the subplots is the old mechs versus the new mass-produced ones. Prototypes versus mass-produced units is a very common.
I mean, it was in Eva.
Yep, exactly.
Yep.
So yeah,
it was in Darling.
Yeah, it's a very common Gundam thing as well. It's a very common mass-produced versus the prototypes. And so I thought, okay, is this Eva or Gundam? I can't tell. But then I saw the new units they produced, like the ones like based off the Gurren Lagann. I'm like, okay, we're definitely pulling for the Gundam playbook. Not that I'm mad. If you're gonna make me a dish with chicken, I'm not gonna be mad. I like chicken. But
And I mean, the end is basically just a huge battle with Simon and Team Daiguren vanquishing
the anti-spiral,
essentially. And then at the end of the show, they kind of make contact with other beings and life forms and stuff like that have finally seen them to vanquish their oppressors. I guess for generations.
Yeah. And also we should mention all the characters we didn't talk about, all the superfluous side characters, all died. And
a lot of them died.
And it was so funny because I remember watching whatever later episode that was and going, wow, does the show think I care?
Because there are a lot of them that I did care about in the moment. Like Kitan, which is the blonde hair guy.
Yeah, I remember Kitan.
I liked him a lot. There were a lot that I cared about in the moment, but even when I was watching it back in the day and when I had more of a patience and more of an understanding for these characters,
right?
Even there were those two young boy characters,
Gimme,
Kyo. I'm just reading them off right now. I can't fucking remember their names, but I'm reading them off right now, and they're just kind of the kids, the runts of the litter, and they did not matter for the entire show.
No.
At no point was I ever concerned for their well-being because I was like, well, they don't matter, so it really doesn't matter.
Yeah, no, they had the two guys. They had a couple of people sacrifice themselves to save them, and that's again, it's not anything they did. It's people doing stuff around them.
And then there was the comedic effect Bobo twins.
Yeah,
and which added some semblance of comedy, but it really wasn't enough to me for me to care about them.
I never laughed at them once.
Right. And I have one more thing to mention on the plot as far as it's concerned, because this was really funny to me.
Okay.
And I only caught this in my second viewing.
Yeah.
When I watched the last episode again recently. After they vanquish the anti-spiral, everything restores to its natural order.
Right.
Simon's like, all right, Rasu, you could be the president. I'm gonna go do whatever. In the galaxy. And everybody's like, okay, Simone, bye. And Yoko's like, bye. And she's like, but I kind of want to bone him, but I'm not sure.
Yeah.
So that's kind of left unsaid. But the last episode, right? The end of it is Simone's marrying Nia, or Polly Pocket Waifu.
Yeah.
And who is now?
I'm very glad you're on that train now.
I really am. I love that term. And they're about to get married, right?
Yeah.
And something about when they vanquished the anti-spiral, everybody that was a product of Lord Genome would phase away.
Yeah.
Or something. So you have this big final battle where Simone, so Nia, after they get married, Nia like fades away after they do like a wedding kiss or something like that. It's all very sad, whatever, kind of, I guess. But during that final battle that Simone's facing the anti-spiral, Simone pushes through so much in order to be able to defeat the anti-spiral, and it gives you the idea of like anything is possible if you try hard enough, right? And that's very much the idea of this whole series, is that anything is possible if you just try hard enough and you care hard enough, right?
Yeah.
And then right after Nia dematerializes, somebody, might be Yoko, might be Rasu, might be one of the kids, says like, wait, Simone, why don't you just try to bring her back? And he's like, nah, can't.
Yep.
I'm like, dude, the whole point of your entire character is that you don't give up and that you do things.
You keep going.
Like, what do you mean? Like, nah, sorry. Like, I could defeat an entire race of gods with a stupid small robot.
Yeah.
But sorry, can't bring back my girlfriend.
Yeah.
Don't know how to do that.
Yeah.
I'm just not a scientist,
I guess maybe the sex wasn't good enough.
But that was a part that I got really late on. That was like, that's so stupid and completely
and honestly, I hate to criticize the show for this because I love the message of like just keep pushing through.
Right.
However, it got so redundant because in every battle, the answer became there was never any strategy. But it was a problem.
Yeah.
There was never any how do we attack the enemy? How do we change up our tactics here? How do we like a show again, like I'll use Ava again because it's the easiest comparison. Where there's every episode, like in a lot of the earlier episodes, they have to figure out different ways to beat the angels. They can't attack it head on. It's like, okay, we have to snipe this one.
Right.
So this one we get close range.
It's not like you win by force every time. You have to kind of strategize and find out a way to destroy this monster.
And unfortunately, in Gurren Lagann, the answer every single time, I just read my notes, and I got really bad at my notes apparently. I can read my tone very well. The answer was always more spiral power, bigger drill.
Yep.
That's every time, and I was so bored because when I knew it's like an overused finishing move in wrestling. It's like I get it.
It's like a Young Bucks super kicking everybody. Like guys, like I know you do
get
super
it,
kicks. It's fine.
Unfortunately, it just got so boring, and it kind of hurt the message in my head, in my mind. If they saved that for a very select few moments, it would help the show.
Because there were points in like an Ava where it was all just like, oh, just passion, push through kind of stuff like that. But they were very specific.
But they were interspliced with other moments
with strategy.
They had to use some cunning.
Right.
Again, and this is another case where this show should have been longer. Because I feel like if we had those moments where it was just sheer willpower, but it was more spaced out by a greater episode count, and there was more time in between battles, I probably wouldn't have minded.
Yeah.
But the thing is, the show was too short for what it was trying to do. And if this show was like at least 48 episodes, like an average Gundam length, that would have helped it. Maybe even longer, because it's so many side characters that we didn't even touch on.
They did. That's the thing that they kept doing. I feel like in the middle, they really just kept blowing it out with side characters. I was like, guys, I mean, I know you're trying to develop like a team here.
Yeah.
But like, if you want me to care whether every member of this team dies, you got to do something about that.
Exactly. You got to do it.
And that's why they call it Team Die, Gurren, right?
Yeah.
Am I right, dog? Am I right, dogger? Oh,
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Honestly, yes.
Beer is good.
Beer is very good. But it was a shame. And then we did get some the cool character moments we did get were often cut short. I'll be honest, the only episode of the show I ever think about wasn't even a full episode. It was half of episode 21, where Yoko becomes a school teacher.
Yes. And
I saw a much more interesting show in this show, where if you just produced a series about a hardened veteran of war becoming a school teacher and her past catching up with her, it seems like a very compelling show.
Yeah, I agree.
So in that 10 minutes, I'm like, wow, if this was an hour-long OVA, I would prefer this maybe over the entire series I just watched.
Interesting.
Yeah, so, and that was in my mouth, I just saw it, like episode 21 was the only time I said, this is interesting and cool. And
you're right. If they had kind of more time to build up stories like that. If they had time to
flesh out these characters. If they gave everyone a similar treatment. If they gave people really enough time. I felt like
you never really had a chance to like anybody other than the protagonist.
Really. Yeah, other than Simone and Nia,
and Kamina'd,
and even Nia. She's one note.
Nia was very.
It's kind of her point.
It is Polly Pocket waifu. I mean, she is one of thousands of the same girl that were engineered or created by Lord Genome.
It's like they took all the interesting parts out of Rei Ayanami.
Right, pretty much.
Yeah,
pretty much. She was a Rei Ayanami.
I saw the Rei connection pretty quickly.
I mean, the blue hair, same.
Yeah, exactly. And like those super paleness and like the fucked up, the fucked up irises. And I'm just like, okay, I get what you're doing here.
Yeah.
And I hate to be so dismissive of this show because I know it's a lot of people really love this show.
Yeah.
And like I said, can I see why it's people's favorite? Yeah, but I can see why anything's anyone's favorite. That's all so as it should be. It's so deeply personal because since the show is generally speaking all about pushing through, I can see a younger person, especially ones going through a hard time, finding something in here because of the sheer simplicity and the dumb fun of it. I can definitely see people love this.
It really strikes me as a show that is very entertaining and fun, but don't think too hard about it. Kind of. It's one of those that's like, all right, this is dumb, fun. We're going to have a good time. And like, there's going to be some things, some obstacles.
Right.
But like, don't think too much into the logistics of how this all works out. Which back in the day, wasn't a problem for me.
Yeah, of course.
Now watching it, I did get a little frustrated at times because I was like, as we've gone over, I'm a plot guy.
You're a plot guy, yeah.
I need all the plot. I need all the answers. I need everything told to me.
And I'm a character guy where I need to know what my characters are going through. I need to be in touch with their emotions. I need them to pull me in. Because I don't necessarily need to be pulled in the story. I need to be pulled into how they're feeling. Hence why Ava just makes me come. Well, That's a strong.
Should I say makes me Shinji?
Makes me pull a Shinji real quick.
makes me
handle
myself.
Like I said, because Ava is one of the few properties. Every time I've watched End of Evangelion twice, only twice now, because I still fear I'm going to cry whenever I watch it. I still cry during the end of Ava whenever with Asuka, the scene with Asuka and her mom.
Yeah.
It still impacts me because I get so much emotion from that. Unfortunately, and again, we keep bringing up Ava for a reason. People keep comparing the two.
Yes.
So honestly, for me, I wish no one compared to Ava when talking to me. And I really wish I could have watched it when I was 15, because the reason why I didn't have a lot of dumb fun with it is because I've seen so much of this before.
Yes.
It's because I'm a huge Sentai fan. It's because I've dipped my hand in a lot of Gundam. That's why I couldn't get very lost in the dumb fun, because I didn't connect with these characters almost at all.
And that's I think the reason that I kind of fell short my second time through it at this age, because I just felt that there were a lot of things that I think I loved it more when I was watching it again. I loved it more in a nostalgic sense than like this is a great show sense.
I know what you mean.
And I do at the heart of it think it is a very good show, and I do think a lot of people really enjoy it for a reason, and it has a lot of good appeal and a lot of like fun characters. But yeah, I mean, watching it the second time, the end of it, I got the first time I watched it, the reason I liked the end so much, the last part of the series, because I was like, oh, fuck, the plot's really ramping up, guys. There's a lot of story to tell here. And I want to know, tell me about that time for the first crew for Lord Genome and Kamina'd's dad and Buta, the little mouse thing.
Oh, the one they should have totally fucking killed, but they didn't have the balls to kill it.
They did not. But the thing is, I wanted to know all about that stuff, right? All about the backstory, and I had so many questions about everything, and most of them were answered. And so by the end of my first watch of it, I was this was a good show.
This was very good at fleshing out its lore, I'll say that.
It built up a lot of lore, a lot of plot.
And it was fleshed out properly.
By the end, there was payoff.
Yes.
There was big payoff in every single way. And I think that is the thing that I didn't like really about Ava upon my first watch of Ava. But not comparing the two, regardless, that's what I really liked about this show, is that it had a buildup and it had it
had a payoff.
A very streamlined process of getting it done.
Yeah.
It gave you all the tidbits, it gave you all the information, and then it gave you
checked all the
answers.
boxes in a way.
Right. It checked all the boxes, which, may not be everybody's cup of tea. But for me, I was very satisfying.
No, I feel you.
Very satisfying to finish.
Right. Mm-hmm. I didn't like this show. I just didn't like it.
Okay. Maybe we'll get to the conversation. You didn't like it. Okay.
Yeah.
But was it bad?
No. It was not bad at all. Mm-hmm. It was way too competent and well made for me to ever call it bad. Because the story here was fairly well constructed, and it made sense, everything that happened. Mm-hmm. I just didn't like it for a lot of the reasons I said. I was a little handheld, and like I said, there's definitely a chance if I watched this before all those other properties I mentioned, there is a chance I would have liked this. Mm. It's just, for me, the characters are too flat, and am I glad I watched it? Yes, because this show means a lot to a lot of people. Mm. And I'm not even trying to dig at anyone for enjoying the show, because I do plainly see why people could like the show, especially when you bring up the whole how such a strong thread is pushing through. Mm-hmm. And of course, watching Simone's growth, I could see a lot of people relating to that. For me, I just wasn't a fan of this show. Yeah, but it totally does. So does it hold up? I would have to say no. Mm-hmm. If the question is today, does it hold up? But I would definitely not even consider calling it bad. Yeah, because and there was some moments like the art style. That's a cup of tea. That's a cup of tea argument right there, mm-hmm. because the art is scratchier, a little more raw. But it was also very of its time. It's very mid to late 2000s kind of scratchiness, because the other side of anime at that time was so clean. Go look at Yu-Gi-Oh, for example. Look at a lot of the other Jump stuff. It was so clean. This was the counterculture, so that's kind of cool. Mm-hmm. But I don't know if either of them were necessarily my cup of tea. Mm-hmm. So I see. Yeah, for me, I just didn't really enjoy the show, but I can never call it bad. That's good. Okay, that's good. I mean, that's a good answer. I think it was for me, just generally, I can never consider this bad. Of course, just considering even nostalgia aside, watching it for a second time and kind of getting there for a second time, I constantly went back to myself and said
I can see why people enjoy this.
Oh, totally.
And I enjoy it in a
Right.
lot of ways.
Right.
Maybe I enjoy it in a lot of less ways
Than okay.
when I was, kind of in that mode 5 years
Makes sense.
ago.
Yeah, no,
and
that
kind of
makes a lot of sense.
Not in the not as jaded, I guess, as I am today.
That's a good point.
As I have gotten in the past few months, even.
Yep.
But it was just nice to see this story flesh out for all these characters, especially Simon.
Yeah.
And I do still I'm a big Kamina'd guy. Love Kamina'd, but for more like. As I mentioned before, more like
irony.
The irony of it, right?
Yeah.
It's like this guy's ridiculous.
He is almost a parody in a lot of ways.
Yeah, he is really a parody.
So if you got, I can fully understand why you like him in that context. Because that to me actually makes a lot more sense.
It wasn't like because it struck me not as like a Naruto like first arc, like believe in that I'm gonna be the Hokage, whatever.
Yeah.
It struck me more as like a bumbling idiot that is just trying to be impressive.
Yeah.
And for that I appreciated it.
Of course.
Because when you talk a big game and you believe in yourself in that way, things like that can happen for you.
Totally.
But you can also die.
You can also just fucking die.
So I mean, as character wise, plot wise, I really dig it. I can't call it bad. Do I think it holds up? I'm not sure about that actually, because I feel like there are a lot of things in this show, like namely Yoko and Ron, and mostly like some of the characters that are introduced. I'm just like, this doesn't really like translate to today that much, or give me kind of a good feeling about these characters and make me want to get more invested into them. A lot of them are kind of put there just as kind of spot dummies.
Yeah, exactly.
That are just kind of like, I'm going to be here for this and I'm going to die in this way. Like Kitan, like I'm going to kill myself so everybody can live on and whatnot.
Totally.
I feel like a lot of them are mostly like pawns in the game.
Yes, very much
right? So for that fact, I feel like it doesn't hold up. But in the ways that it does hold up for me are the ones talking about kind of again, like the emotions, if you don't think too hard about it, obviously.
Yeah, of course.
But the emotions of the characters, Simon's brief depression,
right?
The history of Kamina'd and everything, and what effect he has on people that he was important to. And kind of how everything finishes, I'm like, it holds up in the way of like, this has some good messaging to it.
Yeah, there's definitely good messaging here.
For that audience. I would always recommend that somebody watches it. But especially, I feel like if I had like a nephew who was like 15, I'd be like, definitely check this out.
Yeah.
For that reason, I think it does hold up in that way. But there are, of course, blips that I'm like, that even when I was watching this time, I was like, I don't know if Polly Pocket Princess is gonna be.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know if she's. I don't know if she's a winner.
And the funny thing was, when I was watching through the first time, I was like, yeah, she's a very two-dimensional character.
Yeah.
But even then, I was like, I don't know about this. Yeah. But yeah, I think some of those have intensified. Some of those opinions have changed.
Yeah.
But in general, I guess from my argument within myself right now, I think that it does hold up.
Okay,
and
cool.
I'd say more so than not, although there are a lot of blips.
Gotcha.
And I completely understand your criticisms
right.
of where it does not.
So we have a nice little split decision here.
Yeah, it's a split decision. I was planning for it because like it's a show that I have a huge affinity towards as like something that I tried to just block the nostalgia out of my mind as much as possible.
That makes sense.
But of course, you can't ever get rid of it completely.
No, of course, that's hard. That's hard to do.
That's hard to do. But yeah, no, I just really like how we were both able to watch this show, but come at it from completely different angles.
Right.
Just like we are with most things.
Exactly.
But this one especially, because for the first time, I feel like we watched an anime that was very dear to me,
and not the other way around.
And I haven't seen it, and you haven't seen it yet.
Right.
Usually, we like a lot of the things we watch, like you've seen, and I have to now, or you have a very big opinion on, like AKA Devilman Crybaby. That
we'll get to that in a minute.
We'll get to, but now it's one that I'm giving my opinion on as an outsider.
Yeah,
exactly. So I found it very interesting.
Oh, it's the same scenario,
do so. But of course, you have such like a wide experience range with like Super Sentai and like Gundam and stuff that I think thought you were able to approach it very academically, which was really cool to me.
I'm glad you enjoyed it. I felt my main concern was going all hipster. It's like, well, you should just watch this instead. Because I'm not saying that at all. It's just they're different. I'm coming with such a different palette than most.
And kudos for saying like you don't like something, because like that's fine. You don't have to like everything that everybody likes, right? And a lot of people like this show. You don't have to. Yeah. It's exactly your opinion.
No, and people. I'm sorry, beer is really good.
Beer's good.
So if anyone listening to this, let us know your thoughts. Did you enjoy Gurren Lagann or not? And if you didn't enjoy it, feel free to say.
And I would ask if you hold it very near and dear to your heart, like I did, or I do still. I would highly suggest, if you haven't already, try rewatching it. Rewatch it.
See how you feel.
As a person 10 years, 15 years later, and just see where it falls for you.
Yeah.
As kind of a more of an adult, if you watched it as a young person, or if you're kind of like older,
Right.
and just come back to it and see if it really has the same effect on you, because it could definitely change.
It could definitely change. Well, then let us know how you feel.
Yeah. Well, thanks everybody for tuning in. This was another Does It Hold Up with Gurren Lagann, and we're going to be putting out more of these very soon. So we hope you enjoyed the little chat ski.
And if you have any suggestions, please leave them in the comment section below. If you're on YouTube or what other platform we'll be on, leave a comment.
Yeah. But like bye and stuff.
See you.
Cool. It's bad. Wow, oh my god, what a rousing podcast of anime conversation. Am I right, my compares? Am I right, my weebdom? Anywho, yeah, you can send us a message if you want. Did you like this podcast? Did you hate this podcast? Do you want to kill me? Do you want to drench me in Calaxosaur blood and watch me drink it? That's fine. Just send us an email at badanimepod@gmail.com or DM us on our Instagram at badanimepod, all one word. You can also find us on YouTube as Bad Anime, and you could leave a comment on whatever video you want to leave a comment on. We'll read them all anyways. We don't care. I love you. Kiss, kiss.
In your ear. Podcast Network.